The three ships moved through the darkness of space like dying stars. They were massive, each one the size of a small moon. Inside them lived the last Velothi, a species that had once filled an entire world with their songs and their light. Now, only 200,000 remained. And each day, that number grew smaller. Dae-hyun stood at the observation window of the Lunar Gateway Station, watching the stars. He was a diplomat, though, most days, he felt more like a secretary. Humanity had only been traveling between stars for 3 years, and so far they had met exactly nobody. The galaxy seemed empty and cold. His communication device buzzed. It was Hana Lee, the chief xenobiologist. Her voice was excited but also scared. "Dae, you need to see this. We just picked up a signal. It's not human." Dae felt his heart beat faster. He ran to the communications center. Hana was there with a dozen technicians, all staring at screens filled with data. On the main screen was an image that made him stop breathing for a moment. The creature looked like a praying mantis mixed with a moth. It stood upright, its body covered in pale white plates that seemed to glow softly. Its eyes were huge and multifaceted, like jewels. Behind it, Dae could see others, and many of them were small. "This is the Velothi Generation Ship Sanctuary," a voice said through the speakers. The translation software turned their sounds into words humans could understand. "We are refugees. Our sun exploded 7 years ago. We have traveled to 18 worlds, seeking shelter. Each world has turned us away. We do not ask for much. Only a place where our children can live." The message showed images of a beautiful world with purple oceans and silver forests. Then it showed that world dying, consumed by fire, as its sun expanded and exploded. The Velothi had barely escaped with their lives. Hana pulled up more data. There are 3 ships. Each one is falling apart. Their medical systems are failing. They have maybe 6 months of life support left. Probably less. "Have they contacted anyone else?" Dae asked. "They sent this message to us, to the Kryn Empire, and to something called the Axion Confederacy. I think they're asking everyone for help." Dae watched as more images played on the screen. Velothi scientists, working in laboratories. Velothi artists, creating sculptures that seemed to dance with light. Velothi children playing games that involved patterns of glowing colors on their bodies. They were not monsters. They were people, just different. Over the next 3 days, the responses came in from the other civilizations. The Kryn Empire replied first. Their message was cold and formal. The Velothi consumed too many resources. Their biology was strange and unknown. Their presence might attract whatever destroyed their world. Request denied. The Axion Confederacy took longer to respond, but their answer was the same. They feared the Velothi would upset their trade agreements with other species. They could not risk their economy. Request denied. Earth's government called an emergency meeting. Every nation sent representatives. The United Earth Council chamber was packed with people arguing, shouting, pleading. Dae stood at the center, trying to explain what he knew. "They have children dying on those ships," he said. "They've been rejected 18 times. They're asking us, because we're their last hope." A counselor from North America stood up. "We can barely feed our own people. Earth has 12 billion humans. How can we take in 200,000 aliens?" Another counselor from Africa shook her head. "How can we not? What does it say about us if we turn away refugees when we have the power to help?" Jin Park, a young agricultural scientist, presented his research. "But look at where they can live." He showed images of Venus, with its thick atmosphere and extreme heat. They could survive there. They could live on worlds that would kill us in seconds. We're not competing for the same space. Yuri Kim, the military commander, had concerns. What if this is a trick? What if there are more of them, waiting to invade once we let our guard down? Hana Lee stood up. She had been studying the Velathi transmissions for 3 days without sleep. I've analyzed everything they sent us. Their biology, their culture, their history. They're peaceful. They've never fought a war. Their entire civilization was based on cooperation and art. That's why they're dying now. They don't know how to fight, only how to ask for help. The debate went on for 72 hours. People argued about resources, about danger, about the unknown. Some said humanity should focus on its own problems. Others said that helping others was what made humanity worth saving in the first place. Tae-jin, a philosopher, made a speech that was broadcast across the entire world. The galaxy has seen these people and said no 18 times. 18 civilizations looked at dying children and decided they were not worth saving. If we say no, if we become the 19th, then what are we? We become just another species that values comfort over compassion. Is that who we want to be? It's C. 19-4. Finally, the vote came. Day watched the numbers appear on the screen. 89 votes to accept the Velathi. 84 votes to reject them. 12 abstentions. The decision was made. Day sent the message himself. His hands shook as he typed. Velathi ships, sanctuary, hope, and unity. This is Dae-hyun of Earth. Your request for refuge is accepted. Welcome to the Sol system. Welcome home. The response came back 3 hours later. It was just an image. Thousands of Velathi gathered together, their bodies glowing with patterns that Hana said meant joy and gratitude. In the center stood the Velathi queen, Tierra. She was larger than the others, her plates gleaming like moonlight. Thank you, the message said. We will never forget this. Across the galaxy, other civilizations watched. Most thought humanity had just made a terrible mistake. A few wondered if maybe, just maybe, humans understood something that the rest of the galaxy had forgotten. The Velathi ships entered the Sol system on a cold morning in March. Dae-hyun watched them approach on every screen in the Lunar Gateway station. They were even bigger than he had imagined. Each ship carrying its own ecosystem, its own piece of a dead world. Hana Lee was already working with her team, preparing for first contact. She had studied the Velathi biology until she could recite it in her sleep. Silicon-based, breathing sulfur dioxide. Seeing in wavelengths humans could barely detect. Everything about them was different, and that terrified some people. On Earth, protests filled the streets of major cities. People held signs saying, "Earth for humans," and "No alien invasion." News channels showed the same images over and over. Talking heads arguing about whether humanity had made the right choice. Fear spread like a virus. But other people prepared to help. Jin Park and his team of agricultural scientists worked day and night, designing habitats where the Velathi could live. Wuhan, an engineer, studied the Velathi ship designs, amazed at technology that was centuries ahead of anything humans had built. The first meeting happened in orbit above Earth. Dae-hyun, Hana Lee, and Yuri Kim took a shuttle up to meet Queen Tierra. When the airlock opened and the Velathi queen walked through, everyone held their breath. She was beautiful in a way that was completely alien. Her body plates shifted colors as she moved, patterns of light flowing across her like water. Her eyes, huge and multifaceted, seemed to look at everything at once. She stood almost 8 feet tall, and behind her came 2 smaller Velathi, her advisors. "We meet at last," Tierra said. The translator device turned her clicks and whistles into clear English. "Thank you for this chance. Thank you for seeing us as people, not as problems." Hana stepped forward carefully. "Welcome to the Sol system. We've prepared several locations where your people can settle. We need to move quickly. Your ships won't last much longer." The queen's colors shifted to something Hana had learned, meant sadness. 17 of our children died during the journey here. Every day we delay costs more lives. We are ready to move immediately. Facted, The evacuation began the next morning. Human ships and Velothi shuttles worked together, moving families off the dying generation ships. Day watched as Velothi parents carried their children, their bodies glowing with patterns that needed no translation. They were scared, but hopeful. The first colony was established on Venus. The thick, poisonous atmosphere that would kill a human in seconds was perfect for the Velothi. They built cities in the clouds, massive floating platforms held up by technology humans barely understood. Within weeks, thousands of Velothi were living and working, their bodies finally able to move freely after years trapped on crowded ships. More settlements appeared on Mars, in the deep canyons where the atmosphere was thick enough. Some Velothi chose to live in domed colonies on Europa, Jupiter's ice moon. They spread across the Sol system, and everywhere they went, they brought their strange beauty. Su-Yon was a teacher in Luna City, the human settlement on the moon. When the first Velothi children arrived at her school, she didn't know what to expect. The young Velothi were smaller than the adults, their plates softer and more colorful. They communicated by flashing patterns on their skin, like living light shows. "Can they learn like human children?" the other teachers asked. "There's only one way to find out," Su-Yon replied. She started with simple things: numbers, colors, shapes. The Velothi children learned quickly, their minds processing information in ways that seemed almost magical, but they struggled with human emotions. Velothi didn't cry or laugh like humans did. They showed feelings through color patterns and pheromones that humans couldn't detect. One day, a human boy named Tommy brought a drawing to class. He had drawn a picture of himself holding hands with a Velothi child named Shira. The drawing was crude, just stick figures, but it showed them both smiling. Shira looked at the drawing for a long time. Then her body erupted in the brightest gold pattern anyone had ever seen. Hana, who was visiting the school, explained that it meant overwhelming joy. Shira didn't know how to smile, but she understood friendship. Not everyone was happy. Nari Choi, a security analyst, watched everything with worried eyes. She tracked every Velothi movement, looking for signs of danger. When a group of Velothi technicians asked to visit Earth's power plants to help improve efficiency, she said no immediately. "We don't know what they're really planning," she told Day. "What if they're studying our systems to shut them down? Or maybe they just want to help," Day replied. Gratitude can be faked. Trust takes time, but slowly, cooperation began. Wuhan worked alongside Velothi engineers, learning their techniques for sustainable fusion power. The Velothi had perfected it centuries ago. In exchange, they learned from humans about emotional expression, about art that wasn't just patterns of light, but shapes and sounds and stories. A Velothi named Kriash became fascinated by human music. He had never heard anything like it. Velothi communication was visual, not auditory, in the way humans understood. When Wuhan played him a symphony by Beethoven, Kriash stood completely still for the entire performance. "What does it mean?" Kriash asked when it was over. "It means whatever you feel when you hear it," Wuhan said. "That's the beauty of it." Kriash's body shifted through a dozen colors, trying to express something he had no words for. Finally, he settled on a soft blue pattern. "I think I understand sadness now. And joy. At the same time. How do you live with such feelings?" "We don't have a choice," Wuhan smiled. "But they make life worth living." 3 months after the Velothi arrived, Jin Park stood in a laboratory on Mars with a Velothi scientist named Velona. Between them was a plant unlike anything that had ever existed. It had leaves that could photosynthesize human sunlight but roots that could process Velothi minerals. It was a hybrid, something new. "This could change everything," Jin said, staring at the small green and silver sprout. "If we can grow food that both species can use, if we can share resources instead of competing for them, then perhaps others will see that difference is not danger." Velona finished. Her colors showed excitement. Perhaps the galaxy will learn from Earth. On Earth, Mina Song, a journalist, documented everything. She filmed Velothi families moving into their new homes. She recorded human children and Velothi children playing together, creating games that mixed both species' abilities. She showed the world that integration was messy and complicated and beautiful. Her videos spread across Earth's internet. Slowly, the protests grew smaller. People saw Velothi parents caring for their children the same way human parents did. They saw Velothi and humans working together, creating things neither could make alone. The galaxy watched, and most civilizations didn't understand. To them, the Velothi were rejected cargo, unworthy of resources. But humans saw something different. They saw people who needed help. And they helped because that's what humans did. Day stood at his window, watching ships move between Earth, Venus, Mars, and the outer colonies. Human ships and Velothi ships, working together. It was the beginning of something new, something the galaxy had never seen before. He hoped it would be enough. 2 years passed, and the Sol system changed in ways nobody had predicted. The Velothi were no longer refugees living in temporary shelters. They had homes, jobs, and lives woven into the fabric of human civilization. It wasn't always easy, but it was real. Soo-yeon's classroom had become famous across Earth. She taught 15 human children and 12 Velothi children together, creating lessons that worked for both species. The Velothi students wore special translation devices that turned their light patterns into words the human children could understand. One morning, a human girl named Amy raised her hand. "Teacher Sue, why don't the Velothi kids ever laugh at my jokes?" A Velothi student named Piclo's body flashed with orange and yellow patterns. The translator spoke for him. "I think your jokes are funny. I just don't know how to make the sound you call laughing. My body changes colors instead. See? This is my laughing pattern." Amy stared at the swirling colors on Piclo's body. Then she smiled. "That's actually really pretty. Can you teach me what different colors mean?" "If you teach me how to make joke sounds," Piclo replied. Sue watched them work together, drawing pictures and making sounds and patterns. This was the future, she thought. Not humans and Velothi living separately, but building something new together. At the Interspecies Institute on Mars, Hannah Lee had devoted her life to understanding Velothi biology. She worked with Velona and dozens of other Velothi scientists. Together they made discoveries that changed both species. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday morning. Hannah was examining Velothi's cellular structures when she noticed something impossible. The cells were repairing themselves using a technique human medicine didn't understand. She called Velona immediately. "This repair mechanism," Hannah said, showing her the data. "If we could adapt it for human cells, we could cure diseases we thought were impossible to fix." Velona's colors shifted to deep purple, which meant she was thinking hard. "And your human immune system response, the way you fight infections, is far more aggressive than ours. Many Velothi die from simple bacterial exposure. If we could combine our approaches." They worked for 3 months, barely sleeping. The result was a medical treatment that used both human and Velothi biological principles. It couldn't cure everything, but it could heal injuries that would have been permanent before. The first human patient was a construction worker who had been paralyzed. After treatment, she walked again. The first Velothi patient was a child who had been dying from a bacterial infection. Human antibodies, modified to work with Velothi biology, saved his life. "We're better together," Hannah told the press conference. "Alone, each species has limitations. Together, we can overcome them." Jin Park's agricultural revolution changed everything about food production. The hybrid crops he developed with Velona could grow in harsh environments, needed less water, and produced more food than traditional plants. Farms on Mars, once barely functional, became productive. The food crisis that had worried Earth's leaders began to ease. More importantly, both humans and Velothi could work the same farms. A Velothi farmer could tend crops in the sulfuric heat that would kill a human. While human farmers worked the cooler sections, They shared the harvest, each taking what their biology needed. Wuhan's engineering projects became legendary. Working with Velothi technicians, he designed ships that combined human creativity with Velothi precision. The new vessels could travel faster and farther than anything either species had built alone. Earth's space program, which had been struggling for years, suddenly leaped forward. But it wasn't all success. There were still problems, still fear, still mistakes on both sides. A Velothi named Coral accidentally released pheromones in a crowded human shopping center on Luna City. To the Velothi, these pheromones were like saying, "Hello." To humans, they caused severe allergic reactions. 12 people went to the hospital. Coral was devastated, his body turning the darkest black of shame and grief. "I didn't know," he kept saying through his translator. "I didn't know I could hurt them just by being near them." The incident sparked new protests. "See," people shouted. "They're dangerous. They don't belong here." But Su Yon organized a different response. Her students, both human and Velothi, made a video explaining what had happened. The Velothi children showed how their pheromones worked, how they couldn't always control them. The human children talked about their allergies, how pollen and dust also made them sick, but nobody blamed the flowers. "Coral made a mistake," Amy said in the video, standing next to Piccolo. "But he's sorry, and he's learning. That's what matters. We're all learning." The video was viewed 1 billion times. Coral received thousands of messages from humans, most of them supportive. Luna City installed special air filtration systems in public areas, problem solved through understanding instead of separation. Nari Choi still watched everything with careful eyes. She had warmed to the Velothi somewhat, but security was her job. When Velothi technicians asked for access to Earth's defense networks, she said no firmly. Day had to mediate. "They're trying to help upgrade our systems," he told Nari. "Or map them for an attack we won't see coming," she replied. Queen Thilara herself came to meet with Nari. The Velothi queen was older now, her plates showing tiny cracks from age. She moved slowly, but her mind was still sharp. "You don't trust my people," Thilara said. It wasn't a question. "I don't trust anyone completely," Nari replied honestly. "It's my job to expect the worst. That is wise. Trust must be earned." Thilara's colors shifted to a calm green. "My people were helpless when we arrived. You could have enslaved us, experimented on us, used us. Instead, you gave us homes and freedom. Some of my people still wonder why. They think humans must want something in return. Do we?" Nari asked. "I don't know. But even if you do, even if there is a price we haven't seen yet, it was worth it. My children are alive because of humanity. I will spend my life ensuring the Velothi never forget that debt." Something in Nari's expression softened. "Just keep your people from accessing the defense networks. Please. Not. Of course. And I will share something with you." Thilara sent data to Nari's device. "These are Velothi encryption protocols. They are better than yours. Use them. Protect both our species." It was a gift given freely, with no demands. Nari looked at the data and felt something shift inside her. Maybe trust was possible after all. Mina Song continued documenting everything. She filmed a Velothi wedding ceremony, where the bride and groom created a light show so beautiful it made humans cry. She recorded a human jazz band teaching Velothi musicians about improvisation, watching them struggle to understand music without rules. She filmed Jin Park and Velona planting the 1,000th hybrid tree in what they called the Garden of Unity. The trees had leaves that shifted between green and silver, photosynthesizing light in wavelengths both species could see. "This is what we're building," Jin said to Mina's camera. "Not a human world or a Velothi world. Something new. Something better." Mina's documentaries spread across Earth and through the Velothi colonies. They reached other human settlements in nearby star systems, and slowly, carefully, they began to leak beyond the Sol system, carried by traders and travelers. Other civilizations watched these recordings with confusion. The Kryn Empire saw weakness. The Axion Confederacy saw wasted resources. But a few species, those who had been rejected or marginalized themselves, saw something different. They saw hope. In the dark spaces between stars, refugee ships from other species began plotting courses towards Sol. Word was spreading. There was a world that said yes when others said no. There was a species that helped instead of rejected. Earth was about to become something it never intended to be. It was becoming a sanctuary for the rejected, a beacon for the desperate. And the galaxy was starting to notice. The message arrived on a Friday, 5 years after the Velothi first entered the Sol system. Dae-Hyun was having coffee with Hana when every communication system on the Lunar Gateway station started flashing red. "This is High Commander Zek Thor of the Kryn Empire," the translated voice said. The screen showed a creature that looked like a cross between a lizard and a bear, covered in purple scales. "Earth has violated Galactic Law Code 4-7. Section 1-2. You have harbored a rejected species without authorization from the Galactic Council. You have 30 days to expel the Velothi or face economic and military sanctions." Day felt his stomach drop. Hana grabbed his arm, her face pale. "They can't do this," she whispered. "The Velothi are citizens now. This is their home, but the Kryn could do it." And they did. Within hours, a Kryn fleet of 300 warships positioned themselves around the Sol system. They didn't attack, but the threat was clear. Earth's small fleet of 40 defense ships looked like toys in comparison. The Kryn imposed an immediate blockade. No ships could enter or leave the Sol system. Earth's trade with the few other civilizations it had contact with stopped completely. Prices for rare minerals and advanced technology skyrocketed overnight. Yuri Kim called an emergency meeting with all military commanders. Day attended, along with Queen Thilara. The Velothi queen looked older. Her colors dimmed with worry. "We cannot win a military fight," Yuri said bluntly. "The Kryn have technology and weapons centuries beyond ours. If they attack, we lose." "Then we negotiate," Day said. "We find a diplomatic solution. The Kryn don't want negotiation. They want submission." Yuri pulled up star charts. "They've done this to 17 other species. Every single one either expelled their refugees or was destroyed. Those are the only outcomes." Thilara's body flashed with patterns of deep sadness. "Then my people must leave. We will not let humanity be destroyed for us. We will take our ships and go." "Go where?" Hana demanded. "Every world has rejected you. You leave here. You die in space. Then we die," Thilara said simply. "Better we die than drag you down with us. You gave us 5 beautiful years. We saw our children grow up happy. That is more than we dared hope for." The debate spread across Earth. News channels showed the Kryn fleet counting down the days until the deadline. Some people demanded the Velothi leave immediately. "It's them or us," they shouted. Others organized protests. Human and Velothi standing together, refusing to be separated. Nari Choi worked day and night on security preparations. She knew the Kryn might attack. She knew Earth's defenses were pathetic compared to theirs. But she also knew something else. "The Velothi generation ships," she told Yuri. "They've been repairing them. Wu Han and his team have been working with Velothi engineers. Those ships are ancient and broken," Yuri said. "They were, not anymore." Wu Han presented his project to the military council. The 3 Velothi generation ships, Sanctuary, Hope, and Unity, had been completely rebuilt. They combined human weapon systems with Velothi shield technology. They weren't warships, but they could defend themselves. "It's not enough to win," Wu admitted. "But it's enough to make the Kryn think twice about attacking." Jin Park had his own revelation. His team had been analyzing Earth's economy since the blockade began. The results surprised everyone. "We're not collapsing," he told the United Earth Council. "The hybrid agriculture means we don't need food imports. The Velothi fusion technology means we don't need energy resources from outside. We're not just surviving the blockade, we're thriving." The Kryn expected us to panic, Day realized. They thought cutting us off would make us desperate. But we've become self-sufficient without realizing it. Queen Tielara called a meeting of all Velothi in the Sol system. 200,000 Velothi, now 230,000 with the children born on Earth, gathered virtually. Day and Hana were invited to listen. "Humanity gave us everything," Tielara said, her body glowing with silver light. "Now they are threatened because of us. We must decide our future. Do we leave and die with dignity, or do we stay and fight beside them?" A young Velothi named Shira, now a teenager, spoke up. She was the same one who had been in Su Yun's first class. "I was born on our dying ships. I don't remember our homeworld, but I remember arriving here. I remember human faces showing kindness instead of fear. Earth is my home. If we leave, we abandon the only family I've ever really known." Piclo, her friend, added his voice. "The humans call us citizens, not refugees, not aliens. Citizens. That word means something. It means we belong. I vote we stay." One by one, the Velothi voted. It was nearly unanimous. They would stay and face whatever came together. Tae-jin, the philosopher who had spoken for accepting the Velothi 5 years ago, made another broadcast. This time it wasn't just to Earth. Using Velothi communication technology, his message spread across known space. "The Kryn Empire has given us an ultimatum," he said. "Abandon our friends or be destroyed." But humanity learned something from the Velothi. We learned that fear is not strength. We learned that walls are not safety. We learned that the greatest power a civilization can have is the courage to care about others, even when it's hard. His message continued. "We are not the same species, the Velothi and humans. We breathe different air. We eat different food. We see different colors. But we share something more important than biology. We share a home, and humanity does not abandon its home or its people." The broadcast showed images of human and Velothi children playing together. Scientists of both species working side by side. Farmers sharing harvests. Families of different species celebrating together. "So here is our answer to the Kryn Empire," Tae said. "No. We will not expel the Velothi. We will not surrender to fear. We would rather die standing together than live apart in shame." The message spread. On the Kryn warships, the commanders watched with confusion. They had expected panic, not defiance. They had expected Earth to choose survival, not principle, but something else was happening across the galaxy. On the Torvan Republic homeworld, protesters filled the streets, demanding their government stop rejecting refugees. In the Axion Confederacy, workers went on strike, refusing to support the blockade. Smaller species that had been marginalized watched Earth stand and felt something stir inside them. Minasong's documentaries had spread further than anyone knew. Millions of beings across the galaxy had watched humans and Velothi building a life together. They had seen that integration was possible, and now they saw Earth willing to die for that principle. The Kryn High Commander contacted Day directly. Zekthor's face filled the screen, his expression unreadable. "You are fools," the commander said. "You will lose everything for these creatures." "Maybe," Day replied. "But we'll lose it with our honor intact. Can you say the same?" The deadline approached. Earth's fleet and the 3 converted Velothi ships took defensive positions. They knew they couldn't win. But they would make the Kryn pay for every inch of space. On Earth, in the Velothi colonies, on Mars and Venus and Europa. Humans and Velothi held each other and waited. If this was the end, at least it would be an end they chose together. The galaxy held its breath watching to see if compassion would be rewarded or punished. The deadline came on a Tuesday morning. Dae-hyun stood on the bridge of the Lunar Gateway Station, surrounded by military officers and diplomats. Through the observation windows, he could see the Kryn fleet positioned like a wall of metal around the Sol system. Queen Tierra stood beside him, her elderly body still straight and proud. Hana held a communication device, ready to send Earth's final message. Yuri Kim had his hand over the weapons activation button, knowing it would probably be the last thing he ever did. Then something unexpected happened. A new ship appeared on the sensors, dropping out of faster-than-light travel right between Earth and the Kryn fleet. It wasn't human, or Velothi, or Kryn. The design was completely unknown. "This is Captain Rilton of the Torvan Republic ship Freedom's Voice," a new voice said. The translator showed a being that looked like a dolphin with arms. "We stand with Earth. The blockade ends. Now. Gram. And. Ground. Ground." More ships appeared. 12 vessels from the Axion Confederacy, their crews having mutinied against their own government. A massive colony ship from a species called the Nyx, carrying 50,000 refugees who had been rejected by the Kryn just like the Velothi. "We saw your broadcasts," the Nyx captain said. "We saw what you built. If Earth falls for helping others, then the galaxy loses its last hope. We will not allow that." The Kryn fleet suddenly faced a different situation. They still outnumbered the defenders, but not by as much. More importantly, attacking Earth now meant attacking multiple species, potentially starting a war that would spread across the galaxy. High Commander Zekthor opened a communication channel. His face showed something Day had never seen before, in a Kryn. Uncertainty. "This changes nothing," Zekthor said. But his voice lacked confidence. "Galactic law is clear." "Then perhaps galactic law is wrong," a new voice interrupted. It came from a Kryn ship, but not the commander's flagship. "This is Sub-Commander Carles. I served in the Kryn military for 40 years. I have seen us reject 17 species. I watched them die in space. And for what? To maintain order? To preserve resources? Or because we were afraid?" The communication showed a Kryn officer, his scales gray with age. "Earth showed us something we forgot. Compassion is not weakness. Integration is not dangerous. What is dangerous is a galaxy where everyone turns away from suffering because it's easier." "You dare question the Empire?" Zekthor roared. "I dare question whether we are still worthy of calling ourselves an empire," Carles replied. "My crew agrees. We will not fire on Earth. Punish me if you want, but history will remember who stood on the right side today." 3 more Kryn ships broke formation, joining the defenders. It wasn't many, but it was enough. The Kryn Empire's military was fracturing over a principle. On planets across the galaxy, the protests grew larger. The Torvan Republic government fell, as citizens demanded new leadership. The Axion Confederacy's economy crashed, as workers refused to support the blockade. Smaller species saw their chance and rose up against the systems that had marginalized them. The galaxy was changing, and Earth had been the spark. Day made a decision. He opened a direct channel to Commander Zekthor. "Commander, we don't want war. Neither do you, I think. So let's negotiate. Not as enemies, but as civilizations trying to find a way forward." 2-5. 1945. The silence lasted for 3 full minutes. Then Zekthor's image appeared again. He looked tired. "What do you propose?" Negotiations took 2 weeks. Day and Queen Tierra worked together with representatives from the Kryn Empire, the Torvan Republic, the Axion Confederacy, and 17 other species. It was the largest diplomatic gathering in known galactic history. The result was the Sol Accords. The agreement established new principles for how civilizations should treat refugees and marginalized species. It didn't solve everything, but it was a start. The Kryn agreed to lift the blockade. In exchange, Earth agreed to help establish refugee centers on other worlds, sharing what they had learned about integration. The Kryn Empire didn't apologize. Their pride wouldn't allow that. But they did establish an embassy on Mars, right next to a Valathi colony. Commander Zekthor himself visited, walking through streets filled with humans and Valathi living together. "I still think you are fools," he told Day. "But perhaps the galaxy needs more fools like you." The changes spread. The Torvan Republic invited the first refugee species to settle on their outer colonies. The Axion Confederacy reformed their trade agreements to be more inclusive. It wasn't perfect, and many civilizations still rejected the new ideas. But the momentum had started. Earth became known across the galaxy as the world that said yes. More refugee ships arrived, each carrying species that had been rejected elsewhere. Humans learned to live alongside beings that looked like crystals, or clouds, or mathematical equations given form. The Sol system became a testament to what was possible when fear was set aside. Su Yon's school expanded to accommodate 12 different species. Human children, Valathi children, Nyx children, and others learned together. The classroom was chaos sometimes, with different biologies and communication methods. But it worked. Piklo and Shira graduated together, the first Valathi to complete human higher education. They chose to become ambassadors, traveling to other worlds to teach about integration. Amy, their human friend, went with them. Jin Park's agricultural revolution fed billions. The hybrid crops spread to a dozen worlds, ending food shortages that had existed for centuries. Velona worked with him until her death at a very old age, honored by both Valathi and humans as one of the great scientists of the age. Wuhan and Kriash designed ships that became the standard across known space. Their hybrid human-Valathi technology was faster, more efficient, and more reliable than anything pure human or pure Valathi could create alone. Hana Lee's medical treatments saved countless lives across multiple species. The Interspecies Institute on Mars became the premier research center in the galaxy, attracting scientists from everywhere who wanted to learn how different biologies could complement each other. Nari Choi eventually became Earth's Minister of Defense. She never stopped being careful, but she learned to balance security with openness. Her greatest achievement was creating a defense network that protected the Sol system while remaining transparent to allies. Queen Thilara lived to see her people fully integrated into galactic society. She died at the age of 90 Earth years, surrounded by Valathi and humans, who all called her grandmother. Her funeral was attended by representatives from 40 species. At her request, she was buried on Earth, in soil that once would have been poison to her kind, but that Valathi biology had learned to tolerate. Mina Song's documentaries became required viewing in schools across the galaxy. Children of 100 species grew up watching humans, and Valathi learned to live together, seeing proof that difference was not danger. Tajin's philosophy spread. His idea that compassion was strength became a movement that changed politics on dozens of worlds. He never sought power, but his words shaped the galaxy more than any weapon ever could. Dae-hyun retired after 20 years as Earth's chief diplomat. He spent his last years teaching at the Academy of Galactic Relations, sharing the lessons humanity had learned. His students came from across known space, all wanting to understand how Earth had changed everything. On his final day of teaching, a young student asked him a question. "Professor Day, was it worth it? All the danger? All the risk?" Day looked out the window of the academy, built on Luna. He could see Earth, blue and beautiful. He could see ships from 100 species, moving peacefully through the system. He could see Valathi children and human children playing together in the parks below. 5 years after the Valathi arrived, we almost went to war, Day said. We could have lost everything, but look at what we gained. Look at what we built. The galaxy said no 18 times. We said yes once. That single yes changed the universe. He smiled at his students. Was it worth it? Every single moment. Years passed. Decades. Centuries. The Sol system remained the heart of galactic integration. the place where beings from across space came to live together. Earth's population grew to include 70 species, each contributing their unique perspectives and abilities. The Garden of Unity, started by Jin Park and Velona, became a forest that covered half of Luna. Trees of 100 varieties, each one a hybrid of different worlds' biology, grew together. At its center stood a monument, simple and powerful. It showed a human hand and a Velothi claw, touching gently. The inscription was in every written language known to the galaxy. They were rejected, but Earth gave them refuge. And in doing so, we all found home. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Slowly and imperfectly. Rejection was easier than acceptance. Fear was simpler than understanding. But easy and simple weren't the same as right. Humanity had shown the galaxy something it had forgotten. That strength came not from walls, but from open doors. That survival meant not just protecting what you had, but sharing it with those who had nothing. That the greatest power in the universe was the simple act of saying yes when everyone else said no. And the galaxy, watching and learning, became just a little bit more like Earth every day.